Alright, so anyway, one of the stories I was going to tell you, I may have already told you, I really don't know. But I use this when I give classes, especially when I'm talking about a safety. You know, I mean, as we all know, the best safety is the one between your ears. But when it comes to firearms that have a manual safety, I use this story quite a bit because I knew the guy, and I've known him, or knew him, for some time. You know, we were good friends. We'd go out for breakfast, you know, we'd do things together. I mean, you know, we were friends. His name was Mike. Now, Mike used to be a teacher at a local trade school over here in Connecticut called Eli Whitney. And he taught carpentry. And he was a hell of a carpenter. Now, because he was in the trade of carpentry, you know, he had a lot of fellow tradesmen that were in some of the same lines of business. Like, one was a tile man, one was an electrician, you know, and that kind of falls, you know, for the par for, you know, you're in that trade, that happens. Anyway, one day Mike and his wife had invited this guy that they knew as well as I. His name is Nippy. Now, Nippy is a tile man, and they call him Nippy because the tile guys use those little nippers to clip tiles when they got to do any, well, back then, you know, if they had to do any little cutting around a pipe or something, you know, they would use a nipper. So anyway, there was Nippy. So Mike and his wife had invited Nippy and his family, which consists of a wife and an 11 or 12-year-old son. So Nippy and his family went over to Mike's house for dinner. And after dinner, while the wives were cleaning up the dishes in the sink in the kitchen, Nippy, Mike, and Nippy's son went in to watch some television and to kind of shoot the shit a little bit. Well, the son of Nippy, this 11 or 12-year-old kid, wanted to get involved in the conversation, so he starts talking about how he wants to get a BB gun or a pellet gun. Now, Mike, owning 3 guns, he had a 9mm semi-automatic in the house, he had a revolver, and he used to carry a little .380, an AMT backup, in his pocket. Well, Mike, being a teacher and an owner of 3 firearms, however, I don't think he ever really used them. I mean, I've asked him to go to the range, and like I said, we've done everything together except the range, basically. I don't even know when he got his permit, because I didn't know when he had got his permit, if he even got his permit legally or not. I mean, I really don't know, you know. But he was a good guy. So what had happened was Mike, being a teacher, like I said, in carpentry, thought he was capable of teaching a little bit to this kid about the firearms, because again, he owns a few firearms, so who's better than a teacher and a teacher with firearms? So he takes the kid in his bedroom and he's showing the kid the 2 firearms that he had in the bedroom, which was the 9mm and the .357 revolver. Now, this is right from the kid's mouth, because the only one in the bedroom at the time when this was going on was Mike and the kid. So at that point, Mike decided to take the A&T out of his pocket and show it to the young lad. And he takes it out, and he broke every rule in firearms that could be broken. First thing he does is he puts his finger on the trigger. Second was he was trusting the safety, which was supposedly on. Then he points the gun to his head. Now Mike is not, or was not, the type of person that was looking to commit suicide anyway. He had no problems, no worries. However, sometimes he just didn't think. He puts the gun to his head, and he tells the kid as he's doing this, and you never do this, and he pulled the trigger. He blew his brains out all over the bedroom wall, as well as the kid. The kid had some brains on him as well. The kid was in therapy for years. Now this happened about 20 years ago. So the kid now is around 34, 33. I don't even know, to be honest with you. I haven't seen him in a long while. But last time I seen him, he was still attending therapy. Not as often, but he was still going to therapy. Because every now and then he'd have a bad week or a bad day, and you know. So at this point, it kind of steered him away from firearms, and you know, Mike died from it. The wife had to sell the house because she couldn't live there anymore. You know, at this point, the kid, he is at this point, you know, gun shy. He's never going to go near a firearm, and hopefully he'll grow out of this mental thing that he's got going with it, that happened to him at such a young age. You know, and hopefully everybody will turn out all right. I mean, except for Mike at this point, naturally. So, but at that point, like I say, he broke every rule in the book. So, I bring that story up when I'm demonstrating the safety and talking about the safeties on firearms, because I bring a number of guns with me, and I'm sure most of you guys do. I bring 4 guns that they're going to actually use. Sometimes only 3, but most of the time I'll bring 4. The 2 22s, a single action only revolver, a semi-automatic 22, which is the Mosquito, which, by the way, I like SIG. I'm a big believer in SIG. But the Mosquito, what a piece of shit that is. That's the worst SIG I've ever seen. I've had nothing but problems with that. Now granted, we use it a lot. But, I mean, I've had to break it down and readjust the firing pin a half a dozen times because it's just stopped striking after a while. The coating, the finish came right off it. I mean, it's just a piece of shit. But anyway, I keep it going, it keeps working. So I'll bring the 22 revolver, I'll bring the 22 semi, I'll bring the 357, but we use 38s in it. And then I will either use the 380 or the 9mm, depending on who it is. I mean, there's not that much difference between the two. So whatever I have for ammo at that point. And the only reason why I do that is because I want the student to have an idea on how the so-called kick is going to be, so they know what to expect between the different guns, so that they just don't go out there and shoot a 22 and expect everything to be the same. Now, we had an instructor that owned a gun store, and all he did was use 22s, and he wouldn't even use live ammunition. He would use caps, and you would shoot at a cardboard target up against the back door of the store about 8 feet away. You know, and that was his idea of firearm. Now, I can kind of understand the handling and the safety of it, but it's not fair to the student because, you know, he's going to expect that firearm that once he does buy one, these fucking trains. I think I told you about these trains. But when the student does go out and buy a firearm, a he or a she, you know, they're not going to realize the difference in that bang, you know, and the recoil that they're going to get. So, like I say, I bring a number of guns. Now, the 4 that they're going to use, and then I bring another dozen, only because I want them to get an idea. I'll let them handle them. I won't let them do any dry firing. They can handle it. They can look at it. I'll run it through the features. You know, I'll give them an idea of what the gun can do and can't do. You know, but other than that, they get an unloaded firearm, opened and safe. So, you know, like I say, so they get an idea. Yeah. There's a few instructors, you know, that do that, and there's myself, and we also have a couple instructors that just bring a 22 semi-automatic and a 22 revolver, and that's all the student ever gets to fire. You know, I guess everybody's got their own way of doing things. I just don't feel comfortable doing it that way. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the best around, but, you know, I mean, come on. You know, we got to remember, we got a student that's relying on us to help them and get them through some of this stuff. You know, and we're not going to be there when they get their gun. So we got to educate them the best we possibly can while we can, and hope that everything works out all right. Now, I always leave an open invitation to my students that because I belong to a club, it's only a $5 guest pass for the day. So what I do with my students, I leave it open that I send an email. If I'm going to the club just to do some shooting, and I'm not going there to do a class, I'll send an email to 2 or 3 students at a time, letting them know that I'm there. So if they have their permit and they want to come up there and use it, I'll be there to help them through it, and that's it. You know, now I don't send it out to all of them each time, because I don't want to have, you know, 20 people showing up. So like I say, I'll send it out to 3 at a time, you know, so I rotate them. So, you know, most of the time I'll end up with 1 or 2. You know, sometimes none, which is great, to be honest with you. Give you a chance to fire off some weapons and not have to worry about babysitting. But again, I'd rather babysit and have the student feel comfortable, and me feel comfortable with him being there, because like I say, he may go to a public range and he's going to be sitting alongside of somebody else using that gun. So I want everybody to feel comfortable, so I want to give them as much as they can, you know. And I don't charge them when I have them come up as a guest. You know, I just charge them for the initial fee, you know. Alright guys, I'm done with that. Let me turn this off for now before I run up to too much time.